have tools for you that you can use for every day, because I know that the parent-child power struggle is real, and it is something that I work with when I coach parents and families. This is something that comes up all the time, and this is something that I work with families and I coach them, and then we get on specific details as far as, okay, so how do I, what are the things that I need to do so that my kids will cooperate more, so that I don't have to raise my voice so much, so that I can have, the kids who listen every time I need to do something, or I need them to do something, or when we're getting out the door, right in the morning, or when it's bedtime, which is, by the way, I have found that, and you can, for those of you who are planning on joining live, or even if you're watching this on replay, I'd love for you to chime in. Like, what are those times when you have seen that your children are the least cooperative? Like, do you know, like, have you seen a pattern? Have you seen patterns of behaviors in your children or in your household when it's the hardest and the most difficult, the most challenging for your to, kind of understand more of your situation? Because the most common theme that I've seen with my clients and with me personally, and it can vary, it can be different for every family, right? Is that it is most challenging right when you are, in the morning preparing everyone, and you're trying to get out of the door on time. That's one, that's the most challenging. And the other is the evening times, the bedtimes, when you are trying to tell everyone to get ready and go to bed, right? Those are also challenging for us parents. And so, those things, like, there is something that you can do about them. Yes, the struggle is real, but I remember a quote that I had read from a fellow mom who works with companies. She said the struggle is real, but it's not mandatory. So that's what I'm trying to tell you tonight, is that even if you are struggling to get your kids to cooperate, number one, you're not alone. I'm right in the journey with you. I always say that, right? And always mention that, I also go through these things, but there is a solution, and there are tools that we can use so that we don't have to be trapped in that kind of struggle. So let's define what a power struggle is. So power struggle is basically when you try to tell your kids, you need to do your homework right now, and they say no, or they'll fight it, or they'll argue with you, and then it becomes a cycle because you're over here trying to make sure that they complete the task, but they are resistant and they're uncooperative. And then you, of course, either respond or react, and there's a difference. Responding is basically, making sure that the situation gets resolved, and then reacting is when we try to kind of manipulate the situation to get what we want, but then it doesn't end that way and nothing gets resolved, basically, which is the difference between responding and reacting. When we react, the situation gets dragged on, it gets prolonged, and then there's no resolution. We don't reach a resolution. And that is what we're trying to do here tonight, is to see, what is the way so that we can end it. And we're just not minimizing it. We're not, putting temporary band-aids and temporary solutions. But what I want you to understand tonight is that there is a way to end it so that you don't get pulled into the cycle. And it doesn't have to be that way. So that's what the power struggle is. And that there are two defining moments in when raising a child where the power struggle is most potent or most evident, and that is during toddler years, which is like the 2, 3s, and maybe even 4s and 5s, right? Those years, and then the teenage years. So you've got those two, and what I'm gonna share with you tonight is something that you can use for all ages, so that you can actually have more harmony in your home, and you don't ever have to worry about, man, are my kids ever going to listen to me, or are they going to do what I ask them to do, right? So that's what we're doing. And again, like I said, you're not alone in this. And if you are a parent or mom who's tried everything and you feel like you're desperate and you don't know, what to do, this is for you. Or if you're a mom, a parent who is thinking, I think overall, our households, there's a lot of cooperation in there, and I think that we're doing great, and that's wonderful. But this tool could also be for you in a way that you can kind of like maintain that harmony and that loving home, so that you don't have to be in chaos, but rather like peaceful, a peaceful and more cooperative relationship with your children, so that you don't have to be bothered by minute details, and you can actually zone in, and you can actually focus on what is important in your home and in your family life, instead of like arguing back and forth, or like struggling to help your children understand what it is that you want them to do, or what the rules are at home, what the expectations are at home. Those things are going to be included in that, the solution that I offer you tonight. So, but before we get into that, I wanted to share with you a mommy confession that happened to me very recently. I almost got pulled into the power struggle. And then the second thing that I'm going to be talking about is 3 words that I want to give you all tonight. And these words are not for your kids, it's actually for you. And then the third one is I wanted to share the video and the workbook that I had created for parents, so that you don't have to be in this power struggle and this cycle of, man, am I going to have a good day today or a bad day? Like, am I going to have to tell my kids 70 million times that we're running late, or are we going to be okay, right? Because that kind of atmosphere has got to be exhausting, right? And I know what that feels like. So I'm here to share some tools with you. So very recently, I was washing the dishes, and now our kids don't have assigned chores at home, at least not yet. We tried that, and I did make a video about that. You can find me on YouTube if you're interested, as to find out as to why our kids don't have assigned chores, and why we do not use behavior charts or chore charts anymore. Well, it might come back, but right now we are not using that. So and like I said, they don't have particularly assigned chores, except for their room and their bathroom and things like that, but we do require them to help around the house. So I know it might sound confusing to you, but they are required to help around the house, and we expect them to help around the house. So one night I was washing the dishes and I told our 10-year-old daughter, I need help. Can you come over and help me dry the dishes? Now, she's never done that before. So she kind of, gave me the look. But what happened was she was reading, she was reading one of her books. And I mean, if you're reading a book and somebody tells you, hey, can you stop that for right now? And, I need you to come over here and help me. As expected, she did give me some kind of look and attitude, quote unquote, right? So this was really interesting for me because I know that with a lot of parents that I work with, as my coaching clients, they would usually, comment that, why do my kids act this way and act like they're ungrateful? We do everything for them, and we ask them to do something for us, and it's like all this attitude come out, and then they can't just be thankful to be doing, like, for example, like the dishes, or sweeping the floor or anything like that, or maybe setting up the table or cleaning up the table after dinner. And in a parent's mind, these things are simple. Yes, they are. You're not really asking them for too much. And I always tell my clients that, yeah, I get it. Like, you're really not asking them for too much. All you want is some help, and then, and that's it. And it's done. But why does there have to be an attitude? And why does there have to be, all this moaning and grumbling and complaining, right? And that happened to me the other night, as I said, and, our 10-year-old wasn't very happy about coming over and drying the dishes with me. So I could have easily gotten derailed. I could have easily gotten distracted. Mind you, this is me observing myself, right? I'm not, you know, it's very important that we pay attention to our own reactions and personalities and how we respond or how we react to our children or in any situation, because that will help us in the long run and the long term to figure out, like, okay, what needs to change, right? Because this relationship, this parent-child relationship, is a two-way relationship. It's not just about the child or children, or it's not just about me. And so we can't just be observing our children. We also have to study ourselves and figure out, what is going on in my thought process. So when I could have easily, as I said, I could have easily, been derailed and distracted, and I could have easily given in to this, why is she not happy to wash the dishes with me? But I caught myself, you see. So, and the tools that I'm gonna share with you is also something that can help you catch yourselves. I caught myself and I said, what was happening here? Of course she's not happy because she was reading a book and I had to pull her out of it, right? Now, I could have said a lot of things. I could have said something like, listen, I'm not your, which is, by the way, I've said this before, I'm not your servant, I'm not your maid. I can't be doing all these things, in the house. I just want you to come here so I can finish this, we can finish this, and we can all go to bed, right? I could have said those things. I could have also said, you were just reading. You can always go back to it, and there's nothing to it. Why do you have to give me an attitude? I could have also said that. Why do you have to be frowning like that? And couldn't you just give me 5 minutes of your time? I could have said all of that, okay? But that would have started the power struggle between us. Which gets me to the second point that I wanted to share with you. 3 words that you have to keep in mind in your parenting. Stay on task. Okay, stay on task. We always tell our kids, you need to stay on task, you need to stay on task. But listen, we are not exempt from that, right? We are not exempt from getting distracted. We are not exempt from, also making mistakes, because we too are human, just like our children. So what I'm trying to say about staying on task is that what you set out to do has to be like, you need to keep that in mind. So for example, and this might make more sense if I tie it into my story. For example, what was my goal that night when I had asked our 10-year-old to help me with the dishes? Well, first, I really wanted to finish it, right? I wanted it to get done. And I had a few. So I really needed the help. So I needed the help. I wanted to finish doing it so that I can also move on and possibly go to bed, right? That's another goal. And the third goal I had also in mind was that, I wanted her to be able to start knowing how to dry the dishes and knowing how to help in the kitchen, which she does, by the way. But this, like I said, this particular task, was her first time doing it. So those were my goals. Notice that in my goals, lecturing wasn't part of it at first, right? And I could have, again, been distracted and said, you know what, this is the right time for you to be lectured about, entitlement, being ungrateful, the attitude, and all that. There's a lot of lessons that I could have told her, but that was not my goal. So I had to stay on task. I had to tell myself that, okay, what I need to do right now is really to finish drying the dishes, right? And you know what? Like, I just ignored the attitude, and I just ignored the not smiling, not happy, with what I'm doing right now. And I used humor with her. Oh, and the fourth goal that I forgot to mention was that I wanted to reconnect with her, which is a big goal for me with my family. Every day it is part of my mindset and my thought process, that I need to make sure that I reconnect with my kids, with my husband at the end of the day. And that night, it was getting really late, so I wanted to reconnect with her, which was probably, the most important goal I had in mind. Now, had I been distracted and had I started the whole power struggle, like, the lecturing, and it was really late. So I'm pretty sure she was tired and I was tired too. So if I had gotten into that power struggle, you know what would have happened? We wouldn't have been able to reconnect. And then I would have been left drying the dishes by myself. Okay, I want you to, if you are watching live or watching the replay, can you just do yourselves a favor and kind of think back to the most recent power struggle that you had with your children? Or maybe you had a moment that you actually caught yourself and you said, wait a minute, this is not worth it. I need to step back, and you actually did not fall into the trap. Just kind of think of those moments. And if you love, I'd love to know. If you want to share, you can comment on the comment section below, and let's talk about it. Let's discuss, because this was a big thing for me. I remember, messaging a friend the day after, and I said, I'm so proud of myself. I did not fall into the trap. I did not, get into that struggle of oh, why are you not smiling? Why are you giving me this attitude and everything? But again, going back, like I said, I used humor with her instead. And you know what? We had a great time just drying the dishes. And we were able to reconnect. And I said to myself, accomplished my goals here. I wanted to reconnect with her, and I asked her about all these things that happened in school. I asked her about her friends and what she was, what she did that day and things like that. So, and we talked, for those, I think we dried the dishes maybe like 15 minutes. And then we talked about even the story or the book that she was reading that night. So it's good. It is important for parents to stay on task, okay? I always tell families that I work with and that I serve, I said, listen, is it about the shoes that they left, in the middle of the living room? Then do that. Like, focus on that and tell them about that. Don't try to pile up everything, and don't start lecturing them about things that are unrelated. Hi, Anne. Anne is waving at me. Thank you for joining. Anne is my friend. So yes, so if it is about the shoes that they left in the middle of the living room, that's what you need to talk about. You don't talk about, oh, you left the shoes in the living room, and you also have the dirty laundry upstairs that you haven't, picked up from your room. I get it. Okay? Like, I get all of it. I've, worked with families for so many years. And I also experienced that with my own children, but it doesn't work when we have 5 things that we're telling them all at the same time, right? So just, you want to stay on task, and we tell, oh, thank you for the hearts. Thank you so much for the reactions. Um, it's better. I promise you, it is better if you focus on one skill at a time that you are trying to correct. You can't correct 5 things and expect them to be great at all 5 things. Like, in the long run, if you want long lasting impact on your children's lives, like, we really have to just stay, focus on what is it that we're trying to accomplish for now, right? So if you are trying to get out of the door on time, would, just like a lot of things that we have to filter also in our thought process and in our mindset as parents. If I'm trying to get out of the door on time because I have to get to work and the kids have to be dropped off at school, should I be talking about all the 10 things that they didn't do from the night before or 2 days before and also this morning, right? Or in the evening, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, like, what's important for me, and your children too, right? Your children need to be able to reconnect with you, with their parents or the adults or other people that they live with at the end of the day. So again, if you are having them clean out the table, right, and they're maybe taking too long, talk about that. Don't also try and pile up like, oh, you have to do, you have to clean up the table, and then you have to sweep the floor, and then like lecture them about all of those things. That's tough on kids. We have to understand that they need to be not stressed when they go to sleep as much as we also need to go to sleep, go to bed with a calm mind and a calm spirit, because it messes up, the whole like psyche when we go to sleep stressed out. And for kids too, it's, just imagine like our kids have a smaller container than us to be able to handle all of that, like stress from school, from peers, from teachers, from home. And if they're in extracurricular activities, that they get stress from there too. So imagine all of that balled up into like a small container to be able to hold all those emotions together and still be able to function, right? So again, as I said, like, make sure that you focus on one skill at a time when you are trying to get your children to cooperate. It's not, we have this, sometimes we have this mentality that if I don't tell them today, they're never gonna learn. That's not really the case. If we space it out, if we know how our children respond to certain situations, and if we know how we respond to certain situations, there's a way that we can be strategic as far as like what they need to learn, what skills they need to learn, what lessons, life lessons they need to learn. Okay, so and the third thing that I wanted to share with you tonight is the video and workbook that I have created for ending the parent-child power struggle. So it's not just, as I said, this is not something that is just a temporary fix for your family. This is something that you can study at your own pace. Okay, so when you have the workbook and the video training, you get lifetime access to it, meaning like if you don't have time to complete it, in one sitting, you don't have to. You can actually, it might be better to do it piece by piece so you can see how you can apply, the details of the workbook. Because there are many parts to the workbook, and I did it that way so that you can really think about, what would be best for my family, for myself, and for my children. Because it's not just about your children, it's also for you as a parent to be able to function well. Because I get it, we have a lot of things to do, and we have a lot of things in our minds, and we deserve the tools, all the tools that we can get, so that we are well informed and we can implement all the things that we want to do with our families. And so the workbook talks about why the power struggle happens, and what the children, what is the thought process behind like why children try to push their limits, and why they want to convince their parents that, like, no, but my way is better, and and things, and I don't want to do it your way, I want to do it my way. And so that's in the workbook and the training. So the training has video and slides for you to watch, and the workbook goes along with it. So, and you can pause it whenever you need to, right? So that you can fill out your workbook. And then and so many tools and so many things that you will find very helpful in this training, and I am excited to share that with you all. And as I said in the beginning of the live stream, what we found to be common is that the mornings and the evenings are when the power struggles usually occur, beginning of the day and the end of the day. So I included specific things in the workbook that you can do in your morning routine and in your evening routines. And then I give you like a background on, child development there in the beginning. it's a framework that you can work with. It's a framework to help you have the foundation of, just basics of the before, so you can prevent the cycle of the power struggle. And then what's even more exciting is that in the beginning of the training and the workbook is that I ask you what your vision is for your family, and then you go from there. Because I believe that as I've worked with, many families of different situations, right? I always say that what is your goal, and you have to always keep in mind your end goal, because that is going to determine how you want your everyday to be, and how you want um, your daily routines, your daily habits to be. So that is the other thing that I wanted to share tonight. And the training and workbook is actually called "And the Parent-Child Power Struggle." So if you are struggling to get your children to cooperate, right, make sure that you stay on task. You as a parent need to understand what it is that you're trying to get them to do and stick to it. Okay. And then secondly, my workbook is the one that digs deeper and explains so much more of the anatomy, the cycle of the power struggle, and how you can end it, so that you don't ever have to second guess yourself as a parent, or second guess, your skills for raising your children well. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, or you can reach me via email, hello@joyacaso.com. If you have any questions about the workbook, you can click on the link and it'll explain everything to you. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And hopefully I'll be able to come on live again next week. If you have topics that you would like me to discuss on this live streams, I'm open to your feedback and I'm open to your suggestions. So have a good night, everyone, and thank you for joining me, those of you who came on live, and for those of you who are watching the replay, I hope you have a good rest of your week. Bye.